Alfred Ngaro.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to take a call on this budget debate. Probably a little bit more hopeful, a little bit more lighter and brighter, rather than that sort of previous speech which just seemed to be a whole lot of doom and gloom. Mr. Speaker, this is a great budget. 8 years on, this budget has delivered, and I would call it in my title, delivered on the things that matter most to New Zealanders, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we know that it's having better results for Kiwi families. Mr. Sir William Sewell knows this because he's experienced it, even over in Māngere. Mr. Speaker, it knows that we're taking the books back into black. It's all the things that we know that matter most. But Mr. Speaker, you can hear it from us, but how about we hear it from the people out in our communities who serve our people? So let's go to Moody's, who's the credit rating agency. Mr. Speaker, this is what they say. We view the upwardly revised projections as credit positive for the government. Business New Zealand was widely supportive of the budget, with Chief Executive Kirk Hope calling it prudent economic management. Positive GDP and employment growth figures, a projected growth in exports, investment and other indicators give him confidence about New Zealand's economic path. The Employment and Manufacturers Association, Chief Executive Kim Campbell, says the budget sent a strong signal the New Zealand economy is in good health. We know the books are in capable hands, and today's 700 million surplus is proof of that, Mr. Campbell says. Mr. Speaker, these are from the people who are in our communities. Yes, they are the businesses. They're the people out there in the manufacturing associations. They're the people also too that care. Mr. Speaker, maybe something a little bit different, okay? And even out here in West Auckland, there's a man named Matthew Toia who talks about the importance of the funding that's been invested into at-risk children and young people, and even in schools. And this is what he says. He is a Board of Trustees member at his Children's Decile 1 Royal Road Primary School in Massey. I think that's in Upper Harbour. And he says his school has more than its fair share of such children, so it should be a net winner out of the budget decision to freeze school operation grants, give an extra 43 million to schools with 150,000 children deemed most at risk. It's also good that they are looking at special needs in our schools as well. Mr. Speaker, that's something we can't argue with. That's actually people in our communities, in businesses, in schools, Mr. Speaker, that are out there actually saying that this budget is a great budget. Mr. Speaker, in my contribution, I want to talk about the social investment package because, Mr. Speaker, that becomes critically important. We hear on the other side, they're talking about all the things that could go wrong. They'll talk about homelessness. They'll talk about issues around poverty, Mr. Speaker. But never once will you hear about a solution. You can bang the drum to keep saying that nothing goes wrong, well, everything's going wrong. And they use, Mr. Speaker, and this is what I suppose irks me, Mr. Speaker, they use the aspects of these issues as a way, as a badge of pride to say that this is what they could do to make a difference. And yet in the 9 years, they saw issues that were issues of housing. They saw issues in which families were struggling, which you would call poverty. The Salvation Army said it in its report. So what is it that we are doing that makes a difference, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, in 2014, the Productivity Commission was commissioned to actually look about how we could make a difference. So this is changing the whole rhetoric. This is not just about numbers, so I'll talk about those numbers in a moment, Mr. Speaker. This is about saying this, Mr. Speaker, that in our systems of care, we've probably spent in social services, health, education, and social services, about $34 billion is what is actually spent over that period of time per year, Mr. Speaker. The Productivity Commission said this, what could we do to make a difference? You see, previously, under a Labour government, it just kept on pouring money into those services without asking the real difference, how can we transform and change these lives? Mr. Speaker, that's what this government is doing. It's taking a difference. And the things that it's doing is that it's taking a targeted approach, Mr. Speaker. So the social investment package sees that $200 million is for new services and support for vulnerable children, Mr. Speaker. So under a Labour government, there were 14 reviews of the Children, Young Persons and Their Families Act. No more reviews. This time it's an overhaul, Mr. Speaker. It's an investment of $348 million to ensure that we overhaul the system that works and make a difference. Mr. Speaker, I want to talk about the warmer, healthier homes. The previous speaker talked about the fact that we've been cutting those fundings. Mr. Speaker, $36 million for warmer, healthier homes. $18 million on the Warm Up New Zealand to go alongside the 300,000 that we have already invested in to make warmer and drier. With the 180,000 that will come under Residential Tenancies Amendment Bill, Mr. Speaker, that will take it up to an almost 500,000. Mr. Speaker, this is a good budget, a good bill. I commend the budget to the House.
A 5-minute call, John O'Naylor.